There's a conversation most people refuse to have because it's messy, politically inconvenient, and it exposes how human desire actually works. Publicly, we all recite the approved script. We say women want emotional safety, equal partnership, maturity, and stability. We say attraction is built on respect, communication, and security. And yes, for many women in many seasons of life, that's true. But there's a second reality running underneath the polite narrative. In private, a noticeable number of women are drawn to something they would never admit out loud. Not because they're bad, not because they're broken, and not because men are supposed to be dangerous. It's because desire is not a moral philosophy. Desire is a nervous system event. It's irrational. It's symbolic. It's often contradictory, and it does not care what looks good on a resume or what earns applause in public. Some women who are composed, principled, and socially correct by day are consuming fantasies by night that are built around danger, dominance, possession, and conquest. Not necessarily real world harm. Fantasy is not a confession of criminal intent, but themes that revolve around power, intensity, and the thrill of being overwhelmed by a man who feels untamed. That's the part nobody wants to say. And because nobody says it, most men walk around confused. They take women's public values as a literal blueprint for what triggers private desire. They try to become the safest, most agreeable, most perfect partner as early as possible. Then they're stunned when they get the polite smile, the pleasant dates, the "you're such a great guy," and then the emotional distance. Meanwhile, some unstable, chaotic guy with no plan and too much edge is living rent free in her head. And if you've ever watched that happen up close, it can make you cynical. So let's get this clean. This is not all women. This is not an excuse for disrespect. This is not permission to become abusive, volatile, or dangerous in real life. If you hear that, you missed the point and you're going to ruin your life. This is about understanding a pattern that exists, one that many men keep stepping into without a map. Because once you understand it, you stop becoming the backup plan. You stop trying to buy desire with stability. You stop getting turned into the emotional support employee for a woman who saves her excitement for someone else. And you learn how to be a good man without becoming a domesticated appliance. The split nobody admits: public identity versus private arousal. Here's the first truth: most people are not sexually aroused by their public persona. Public identity is what we present for safety, status, belonging, and morality. It's shaped by family expectations, social pressure, career incentives, and peer approval. Private arousal is shaped by a different force entirely: novelty, intensity, polarity, taboo, emotional risk, and the symbolic meaning of power. That split exists in men too, by the way. Plenty of men will swear they want a nice, simple life, and then burn it down chasing chaos because chaos makes them feel alive. Human beings are contradictory, but with women, there's an extra layer: social consequences. A woman is judged more harshly for what she wants, what she fantasizes about, and what she's attracted to. So she learns early to separate what I should want from what turns me on. That's why you can meet a woman who's nurturing, professional, and morally articulate. And in private, she's reading dark romance about criminals, outlaws, and men who do not ask for permission in the way polite society demands. And before you panic, fantasy doesn't mean she wants to be harmed. Fantasy is symbolic. It's theater. It's emotional role play. Many fantasies are safe containers where the mind can explore intensity without real-world danger. The fantasy is often about surrender, not about being destroyed, about being chosen, claimed, and overwhelmed, while secretly knowing she can close the book and return to normal life. But the themes still matter because they reveal what ignites her nervous system: intensity, polarity, and a man who feels bigger than the room. The Beauty and the Beast engine, the taming fantasy. Now let's talk about the oldest storyline on Earth, the dangerous man who changes for one woman. We keep pretending it's a children's story. It's not. It's a psychological engine. The appeal isn't bad behavior. The appeal is this: he is powerful enough to be frightening. He is selective enough to be rare. He is uncontrollable to the world. But with her, he chooses restraint. That last part is the whole drug. Not that he is cruel, not that he is unstable. The fantasy is that she is the exception. She is the one who reaches the part of him no one else gets. She is special enough to be the one he softens for, without him becoming weak. That's why the fantasy isn't nice guy who is nice to everyone. That's comfortable, but it's not intoxicating. A man who is gentle with everyone can be admirable, but he doesn't generate the same feeling of "I'm the chosen one." The taming fantasy turns love into achievement. It makes intimacy feel like conquest, and conquest is addictive. This is where many men get tricked. They think the goal is to become harmless. They think, if I become fully predictable, fully safe, fully compliant, she'll relax and desire me. For a subset of women, you just killed the very tension that created desire. Because desire is not gratitude. Desire is not appreciation. Desire is not a performance review. Desire feeds on contrast, strength and softness, control and surrender, danger and safety, distance and closeness. When you remove contrast, you remove heat. Why? The stable guy gets respect, but not obsession. A lot of men become the stable option and don't understand why it feels so empty. Because stability can earn you access, but it does not automatically earn you hunger. Stability is what a woman might choose when she's thinking about her future. It's what she might list on paper. It's what she might genuinely want for her life. But obsession, real obsession, doesn't come from what looks smart. It comes from what feels alive. And here's where men get offended and start moralizing. They say, so she's attracted to toxicity. Sometimes that's true. Some people are addicted to chaos. But a lot of the time, that label is lazy. It throws everything into one bucket. The real question is, what does the dangerous man represent psychologically? Often he represents unpredictability. You don't fully have him. Boundaries. He doesn't bend to please. Self-trust. He moves like he can lose you and survive. Emotional intensity. Being around him feels like something. Social tension. He isn't afraid of disapproval, a threat of loss, and the brain fixates on what can be lost. Now compare that to the man who over-explains, over-provides, over-texts, and makes himself endlessly available. He might be better for her life, but he signals something her nervous system translates as, I need you. And neediness doesn't create obsession. It creates leverage. A woman can respect a man who is useful. She can even love him as a person. But obsession requires a sense that the man is not emotionally owned. The truth about conquest, it's not what you think. When you hear women want conquest, don't picture assault, coercion, or disrespect. If that's where your mind goes, stop. That's not what we're discussing. What conquest usually means in fantasy is emotional takeover. A man who is strong enough to lead the moment, to claim her attention, to dominate the frame, to create an experience where she can let go. For a lot of women, especially women who are high control in daily life, arousal is connected to surrender. If she is responsible all day, managing everything, making decisions, keeping herself composed, her body may crave the opposite in intimacy, relief from control. That's why you'll see a woman who is powerful in public drawn to a man who can't be controlled emotionally. Because with him, she can stop performing. She can melt. She can be messy. She can feel. So, yes, some women want a man who is harder than their daytime world, not because they hate respect, but because their nervous system is hungry for polarity. Why it goes underground: shame, reputation, and social punishment. Another truth: the more forbidden something is to talk about, the more it appears in private fantasy. A lot of women cannot openly say, I want dominance, intensity, and danger themes because they fear being judged, misunderstood, or labeled. So they outsource the exploration to fiction, where they can taste the feeling without paying the social price. That's why the market tells the truth more than people do. What people buy in private often contradicts what they preach in public, not because they're evil, but because they are human. And when a culture refuses to let women talk honestly about desire, desire doesn't disappear. It just becomes secret. Secret desire is often more intense. The cycle men keep watching: tame him, then lose interest, you've seen it. A woman chases a wild guy. She invests. She suffers. She wins him. He becomes a boyfriend. He becomes stable. He becomes predictable. Then she starts picking fights, creating drama, testing him, pulling away. Suddenly she doesn't feel the spark, and men think women don't know what they want. Sometimes that's true, but the deeper explanation is simpler. She was addicted to the climb, not the view. The chase gave her intensity. The achievement gave her identity. I'm the one who changed him. Once changed, the story ends. Her nervous system loses the stimulus. The emotional drug is gone. This doesn't mean she's incapable of long-term love. It means she never learned how to create intensity inside stability. She outsourced intensity to chaos. And if she can't build passion inside peace, she will keep choosing turbulence to feel alive. What men must learn: stop trying to be harmless. Here's the part men need to hear without flinching. A good man is not a harmless man. A good man has power and control. A harmless man has no edge. Women don't crave harm. They crave a man who could be dangerous but chooses discipline. They crave capability with restraint, strength under control, leadership without cruelty. That is what feels masculine in a way that sparks desire. If you become a man who is purely agreeable, purely accommodating, purely predictable, especially early, many women will feel safe but not lit up. And if you become purely volatile, you might trigger intensity, but you'll destroy trust and the relationship will rot. The solution is not be bad. The solution is be strong enough that your goodness is a choice, not your only option. Control danger: how to have edge without being toxic. So what does edge actually mean in a healthy man? It means you have standards and enforce them calmly. You're not afraid of tension, disagreement, or silence. You don't chase validation or beg for closeness. You lead the interaction instead of asking for permission every step. You're playful, teasing, and direct, not cautious and apologetic. You have a life, a mission, and a spine. You can walk away without collapsing. That's it. No crime, no cruelty, no manipulation, no mind games. Edge is self-respect in motion. A lot of men lose women because they confuse being good with being easy to control. A woman may not consciously think, I want to control him, but her nervous system relaxes when she can predict you. And that same predictability can suffocate desire. Why some women keep a safe man around. This is where it gets uncomfortable. Some women will date excitement and keep stability in the background. The nice guy becomes the emotional support system, the safe landing pad, the man she calls when she's hurt by the chaos she chose. And men tolerate it because they think being patient will eventually be rewarded. But patience without position turns you into a utility. If you are constantly proving, constantly waiting, constantly accepting partial access, you are teaching her how to treat you. You are training her to see you as safe, available, and non threatening. And non threatening often becomes non sexual. How to spot the difference between genuine desire and utility. Men need a filter. Here are signs you're being desired, not just used. She initiates, not occasionally, but consistently. She looks for closeness, not just help. She respects your time and your boundaries. She invests emotionally, not only when she's in trouble. She responds to your presence with warmth, not just politeness. She makes space for you in her life rather than fitting you into leftovers. Now, here are signs you're being positioned as utility. She leans on you for support but avoids intimacy. She keeps the connection vague and undefined. She demands consistency from you while offering unpredictability. She wants boyfriend benefits without girlfriend effort. She calls you when she needs something and disappears when she doesn't. A man who understands this does not argue, negotiate, or beg. He simply reduces access. Because access is your leverage. Attention is your currency, and you should not spend it on a dynamic that drains you. The mistake men make, trying to talk her into desire. You cannot debate a nervous system. You cannot logic someone into hunger. If she doesn't feel it, you don't win by explaining harder, being nicer, or offering more resources. That's how you become the safe man she appreciates while craving someone else. Desire responds to a man's presence, how he carries himself, what he tolerates, what he refuses, and how he leads, not to his speeches. The real world translation, what women want in life versus what they crave in fantasy. Here's a mature distinction. A woman can want stability for her life and crave intensity in her sexuality. Those are not mutually exclusive. They only become mutually exclusive when the man becomes a caretaker instead of a leader, or when the woman confuses intensity with dysfunction. Healthy couples learn to create intensity inside a safe container. That's what adult intimacy is. You build trust, then you play with polarity. You build security, then you introduce edge. You build partnership, then you keep seduction alive. But if you are afraid of intensity, if you're terrified of taking the lead, if you think masculinity is never being offensive, you will never be the man she craves. You'll be the man she recommends to her friends. What men should do with this information, not to become manipulative, not to become dark, not to treat women like puzzles. Use this to become whole. Because the most attractive man is not the richest or the nicest. It's the man who has a backbone, a mission, and a calm indifference to approval. Be dangerous in the sense that you are not needy. Be dangerous in the sense that you can say no. Be dangerous in the sense that you will leave what disrespects you. Be dangerous in the sense that you can lead without asking permission from fear. That kind of man is rare, and rarity is the foundation of obsession. Final truth. Desire is not politically correct, but it is honest. A lot of men are trying to win in dating by following the public script. They become compliant. They become safe early. They become overly available. They become emotionally domesticated before the relationship has earned it. Then they act shocked when she stops wanting them. Meanwhile, the man with controlled edge, stable, ethical, disciplined, but not easily owned, creates the exact tension that turns curiosity into attachment. Again, do not confuse this with being harmful. The best version of this is simple: a good man with teeth, a disciplined man with standards, a loyal man who cannot be taken for granted. That man doesn't need to beg for desire. His presence produces it. If you've lived this, if you've been the safe man who got used, or you've watched a woman chase chaos and call it chemistry, say it in the comments, not with bitterness, with clarity. Because the only way men stop losing years of their lives to confusion is by telling the truth about what they're seeing.